Tom Selleck seemed like the perfect husband and father. But in his 2024 memoir, he made a confession that stunned everyone. He called himself a flake who ghosted women and couldn't commit to love. He admitted to years of emotional problems and depression that nearly destroyed him. His friends thought they knew him. His fans believed the image. But the real Tom Selleck was hiding something much darker. What he revealed about his private struggles between 1967 and 1982 explains why his first marriage really failed. The truth is heartbreaking. Tom Selleck was born on January 29, 1945, in Detroit, Michigan, during a time when the world was still trying to recover from the pain of World War II. His father, Robert Dean Selleck, had just returned from the war, where he had worked as a mechanic on B-29 bombers. While Robert was away, young Tom, his older brother, and their mother lived with relatives, waiting for him to come back. When Robert finally returned in 1947, the family was back together, but money was tight. Robert worked in real estate, but only got paid if he sold a house. Sometimes they made barely enough to get by. Still, their home was full of quiet strength and simple values. No big lectures, just actions. Tom would later say that his parents never gave long talks about right or wrong. They just lived it. In 1948, when Tom was only 3, the family packed everything they could fit into one car and moved across the country to Sherman Oaks, California. The GI Bill helped them put a down payment on a small home. It was a big leap of faith. They left behind Detroit's freezing winters and factory smoke, trading it for California's sunshine and fresh air. Back then, Sherman Oaks was a small suburb with only about 15,000 people, but it was just 10 miles from Hollywood. Tom's new world was filled with palm trees, ball games, and mountains instead of factory smoke. His father still struggled to earn steady money, sometimes making only $200 in a month. But the move planted something in Tom, a quiet resilience. By the time he graduated from high school in 1962, he was saving money by living at home and studying at Los Angeles Valley College. In high school, from 1959 to 1962, Tom stood out, not for grades, but for height and hustle. At 6'4", he dominated the basketball court, scoring around 12 points per game and catching the attention of college scouts. He wasn't a strong student. Most of his grades were C's, and he didn't care much for homework. But his presence was impossible to ignore. He joined the Sigma Chi fraternity and played baseball too, living the typical California teenage life with drive-in movies and sunny afternoons. He almost flunked out of college because of it. In a moment of honesty during a 2024 interview, Tom admitted he barely applied himself in class. But he also discovered something else in those years. In 1965, a coach invited him to try acting. That moment changed everything. Long before the spotlight, Tom worked like any other kid in the 1950s. He delivered newspapers on a bike for $1 a week, helped his dad mow lawns for $5 a yard, and showed houses for tiny commissions. Their family sometimes lived on just $300 a month. That kind of life taught Tom something he would carry into Hollywood: how to keep going, even when things didn't go your way. By the time he was 15 in 1960, he started modeling and made $100 a week. But when he joined the National Guard in 1967, he gave up those gigs. He trained for 48 weekends every year, and that discipline stayed with him. In fact, the struggle of knocking on doors and facing rejection shaped him. He faced over 20 failed auditions before anything ever clicked. His early commercials paid little, $500 at most, but he kept going. He credited his upbringing for it. His parents never yelled. They judged people by their last bad decision, not their best excuses. But one memory stayed with him more than anything. Around 1955, when he was just 10, Tom almost drowned. He was swimming at Lake Sherwood, a huge lake in California, when he wandered too far into deep water. He panicked. His father dove in and pulled him out just in time. That moment stayed burned into his mind. Even in movies decades later, he avoided swimming scenes. In Quigley Down Under, filmed in 1990, he was terrified of jumping into the water, and the fear never left. Strangely, in 2015, his name made headlines again, this time for taking water from a hydrant to keep his avocado farm alive during California's drought. He had to pay over $21,000 in fines, but under it all was still that kid from 1955, terrified of water, afraid of drowning again. College didn't go the way he hoped either. In 1963, Tom joined Los Angeles Valley College on a basketball scholarship and averaged 15 points per game in his first year. But the freedom got to him. He skipped classes, partied too much, and focused more on beach volleyball than books. By 1965, his GPA dropped to 1.8, and he dropped out. Years later, he admitted it was a wasted chance. What haunted him most was the feeling of not knowing who he was. His coach once said he could have gone pro in basketball, but he didn't. He chose something harder. He chose Hollywood. He tried to transfer to USC but had to take remedial classes because of his grades. He even got in trouble once for stealing another team's mascot as a prank. He was almost expelled. But that stumble, that sense of shame, became fuel. When he finally got into USC in 1965, he kept up the act of being an athlete. But something else was brewing. He began sneaking into drama classes. One day, Professor John Houseman spotted him during a monologue and encouraged him to try real theater. It didn't go well. In his first play, he froze backstage and vomited from stage fright. But he didn't quit. By 1967, he had acted in several campus productions, including one that involved a nude scene, something that drew 500 angry protesters to the campus. He was still playing basketball, averaging 12 rebounds per game, but he was skipping practices for rehearsals. His teammates didn't get it. His coach didn't either. But Tom couldn't help it. He was drawn to acting like it was the only thing that could save him. In 1967, just when things were starting to shift, the draft came. Tom joined the California Army National Guard and served until 1973. He went from private to sergeant. His unit, the 160th Infantry Regiment, trained at Fort Ord under the boiling heat. He earned a marksman badge and once even saved a fellow soldier from a grenade mishap. In 1969, there was a scare. His unit was almost deployed to Vietnam, but protests back home changed the plan. Instead, he was sent to do patrols during the Watts riots. During this time, he grew the mustache that would later become his trademark. It started as a quiet rebellion against the military's clean-cut rules, but it became his signature. After leaving the Guard in 1973, Tom jumped into modeling and commercials to survive. His first real gig was a Pepsi ad in 1967, where he appeared shirtless and earned only $100. He did cigarette ads too, puffing away on horseback for Salem. That caused backlash from anti-smoking groups. During one Chiquita banana ad in 1968, a monkey bit him and he needed 12 stitches. Still, the ad aired to 50 million people. But this attention came with a cost. People saw him as just a pretty face. Casting directors didn't take him seriously. He filmed over 20 commercials by 1970, but couldn't land strong acting roles. It frustrated him. He even burned his old modeling photos in a bonfire in 1980, swearing he'd never go back. Few people know this, but Tom once dreamed of becoming an architect. His grandfather designed buildings for Ford in the 1920s, and Tom used to draw blueprints for fun. In 1962, he sketched a solar-powered high-rise before that was even common. He even entered a USC contest in 1965 and won third prize. But math wasn't his strong suit. He failed calculus twice and had to let go of the dream. His professors mocked his math errors. The embarrassment crushed him, so he turned to acting as a last resort. Years later, in 1988, he helped design his own 65-acre ranch. That creative part of him never fully disappeared. Even his very first screen appearance in 1965 was humbling. He went on the dating game twice and lost both times. But those awkward moments taught him how to be calm in front of the camera. He used the $50 he earned to buy beer for his friends. From there, he dove into commercials, but he was still being rejected left and right. His height made him look too intimidating for romantic roles. From 1965 to 1970, he supported himself by modeling in catalogs, even posing in underwear for just $10 a shoot. He once said those years made him question everything. His first real film break came in 1970, in Myra Breckenridge, where he played a silent, attractive guy opposite 77-year-old Mae West. She personally picked him, but the film was a disaster. It made just $3 million and was slammed by critics. His scenes were trimmed down to seconds, and he was left feeling embarrassed. That same year, he did a horror film, Daughters of Satan, for just $200. At one point, West demanded he wear tighter pants on set, which caused tension. Even though he was working, by 1975, he was in debt by $10,000. He kept doing ads, Safeguard soap, close-up toothpaste, but they only paid a few $100s. It wasn't enough. In 1971, he starred in The 7 Minutes, directed by Russ Meyer. This was his first major movie, and it came with a price. He had a nude scene that lasted over 2 minutes. His conservative family back in Detroit was shocked. His mother cried. He earned $1,500 for the role, the most he'd made at the time, but he regretted it later. He called it soft porn and said it nearly ruined his career. He started losing auditions again, including a chance to be in The Godfather. His debt grew. To stay afloat, he worked as a carpenter making $4 an hour and even went to therapy in 1973 to cope with anxiety. One of the most painful rejections came in 1973. He got cast in The Young and the Restless, but just 2 weeks before the show aired, he was fired. They said he was too tall and too masculine. He had moved to LA with only $500, and now he was back at square one. For 6 months, he was unemployed, living off $56 a week in government checks. That rejection pushed him into depression. He started drinking too much. He thought maybe it was over. Years later, the show's creators apologized. But at the time, it nearly broke him. Still, he kept going. Tom Selleck was just 29 years old in 1974 when something big finally happened. He got a role on a popular soap opera called The Young and the Restless. He played Dr. Alan Samuelson and appeared in 6 episodes until 1975. For him, it was a major breakthrough after years of doing nothing but commercials. But it didn't last. Writers cut his character, saying there wasn't enough chemistry with the others. That kind of rejection stung deeply, especially for someone with no formal acting training. He had only gotten into acting by accident, after doing some Pepsi ads. Still, this failure didn't break him. It pushed him to start taking acting classes seriously. At the same time, he was juggling auditions and even serving in the National Guard, where he earned the rank of sergeant. He didn't even have an agent. He got this role just by being persistent, while also working at a clothing store to survive. That short role gave him something more important than fame. It gave him a lesson in survival. By 1978, he thought things were finally changing again. He played Orrin Sackett in The Sacketts, a 2-part Western that aired in May 1979. It had a strong cast with names like Sam Elliott, and Glenn Ford. Selleck did all his own writing and brought real ranch experience to the role. But even with all that, the show didn't do well. Viewership was low. He was 33 then and called it one of the 6 failed pilots before Magnum, PI, would change everything. Still, he kept going. The story dealt with big themes like racial tension in 1869 Santa Fe. Selleck filmed through tough weather in New Mexico, with shoots running over budget. The critics liked the realism, but the audience just didn't show up. At 35, he was still stuck in the same struggle, wondering if it would ever really happen. In 1979, he took another shot with a TV movie called Concrete Cowboys. He played a trucker named Will Eubanks, opposite Jerry Reed. They were 2 drifters who got mistaken for detectives. It aired in October that year. Selleck did his own stunts, including a dangerous truck chase that left him bruised and with a sprained wrist. He later said those small roles taught him about typecasting and how hard it was to break through. The film was filmed in just 21 days in Nashville and included musical cameos, but critics called it forgettable. He only earned $10,000, and the dream still felt far away. Back in 1976, before all that, he had auditioned for Charlie's Angels, but the producer said he was too unknown. That rejection hurt more than most. He had already faced public humiliation twice, by losing on the dating game in 1965 and again in 1967. Being turned down again for such a big show made him question everything. But instead of quitting, he doubled down. He signed up for voice and dance training. He had just been dropped from the Fox New Talent program and was living off commercials while also on academic probation at USC. He watched other actors take off, especially Farrah Fawcett. While he kept hearing no, his 6'4" height didn't help. Producers said he didn't fit with most ensembles. He was also broke, but he didn't give up. He kept showing up. Then in 1980, everything changed. After years of rejection, he landed the lead role in Magnum, PI. He beat out over 100 actors, including Kevin Kline and Jeff Bridges. He had to move to Hawaii for the show and shoot in tough conditions with 12-hour days, constant heat, and mosquitoes that ruined scenes. He almost quit after the pilot due to creative disagreements, but a last-minute rewrite saved the whole thing. That role turned his life around. He went from earning $500 per ad to $500,000 per season by 1985. The mustache, the Hawaiian shirts, and even the Pepsi deal all became part of the character. He made that look his own. It cost him movie offers, but it made him unforgettable on TV. The show premiered on December 11, 1980, with 26 million people watching. Selleck had pushed hard to replace a Jeep with a red Ferrari, saying it better matched the character's personality. That Ferrari broke down often, even stranding the crew in 1981, but it became iconic. It also boosted Ferrari sales in America by 15%. By 1982, he was getting 10,000 fan letters every week. He had learned to drive stick shift just for that role, and even did some of the stunts himself. The license plate Robin 1 was a small touch, but it added charm. By 1983, his face had been on 50 magazine covers. Still, things weren't perfect. He often clashed with the creators of the show. In 1982, he threatened to walk off the set because of a script about Magnum's PTSD. He wanted the story to have more humor, more heart. That fight ended with a rewrite that made the show deeper. The same year, he won the Emmy for Best Lead Actor, giving a tearful speech that thanked his team. The show averaged 20 million viewers, but during seasons 3 to 5, his changes pushed that number up by 10%. Behind the scenes, he even got a writer fired to stop a main character from being killed off. It wasn't easy, but it worked. But in 1981, while Magnum was rising, he made a painful choice. He turned down the role of Indiana Jones. Steven Spielberg had offered it to him after a secret audition, but his contract with CBS wouldn't let him take it. So Harrison Ford stepped in. Raiders of the Lost Ark came out on June 12, 1981, and made $389 million worldwide. Selleck later said he regretted turning it down every single day. The test footage was destroyed to avoid leaks, but the moment haunted him. It cost him about $50 million in missed earnings. He parodied the role in a Magnum episode in 1985, but the loss stayed with him. When Magnum PI ended on May 1, 1988, it went out with 50.7 million viewers. That was more than the Super Bowl that year. Selleck had written the story himself. It showed Magnum getting shot, entering a dreamlike limbo, and reuniting with his daughter. It was personal. In 1986, he had a near-death scare in a helicopter. He used that memory to write the finale. The episode included 15 references to past seasons. He even directed some scenes himself. It cost $2 million to produce, and real Navy SEALs were brought in for accuracy. Fans were scared when rumors spread that Magnum would die, and CBS got 100,000 letters before the episode aired. But after it aired, 95% of viewers said they were satisfied. It cemented his place in television history. In 1989, he starred in Her Alibi. It was meant to show his romantic side, but it flopped. It made only $18.7 million at the box office, just barely above its $15 million budget. Critics hated it. Roger Ebert called it ridiculous. Selleck had improvised scenes, including one with a bow and arrow that ended in disaster. There were even subtle hints that his character had gay undertones, something unusual at the time. The film didn't fit his macho image from Magnum. It was supposed to be a fun comedy, but it only reminded people of how quickly fame could fade. That failure sent him back toward westerns. But in 1987, 2 years earlier, he had already proven he could still draw crowds. 3 Men and a Baby was a massive hit. Directed by Leonard Nimoy, it made $167 million in the US and $240 million worldwide. It became the biggest hit of 1987. The sequel in 1990 also did well, but behind the scenes, things were tense. He clashed with Ted Danson over creative control. The drama continued into the second movie, where dealing with kids on set made things even harder. Still, these films made him bankable again, even if they started to typecast him. In 1990, he tried something different with Quigley Down Under. He played a sharpshooter in 1880s Australia. The film was praised but didn't earn much, just $21 million on a $20 million budget. It had been meant for Steve McQueen or Harrison Ford. Selleck trained with a custom rifle and did real long-distance shots in the desert. The plot touched on dark themes like ethnic cleansing, with Selleck's character refusing to hunt indigenous people. He filmed through intense heat and exhaustion. It showed a different side of him and helped him step deeper into Western roles. Years later, in 2005, he took on something darker. He began starring in the Jesse Stone TV movies on CBS. These were based on novels and showed him as a broken cop dealing with addiction. The first one drew 15 million viewers. He acted, produced, and even wrote parts of them. His real-life dog appeared in scenes. The stories tackled heavy topics like child abuse and divorce. He filmed in freezing cold Nova Scotia, sometimes in 20-degree weather. By 2015, 9 movies had aired. Over 100 million people had seen them. He later admitted the role reflected his own struggles during the 2000s. From 1996 to 2000, he also made a guest appearance on Friends, playing Monica's older boyfriend, Richard Burke. It was only supposed to be 1 episode, but fans loved him so much it turned into 10. The age gap between them caused lots of tension in the show. and Chandler's jealousy became a running gag. He improvised some scenes, like the mustache-shaving one in 1997. When the couple broke up over not wanting kids, fans were devastated. When he returned in 2000, it gave closure to millions. It made him more popular with younger audiences, even if it typecast him again. Then, in 2010, he took on what would become his longest-running role. He became Frank Reagan, the NYPD commissioner in Blue Bloods. The show premiered on September 24th and ran all the way until 2024. He appeared in 293 episodes. From the start, he insisted on including family dinner scenes. He said it reminded him of his own Catholic upbringing. He even told producers he'd quit if they tried to remove those moments. That creative control came from his $200,000 per episode contract. Those dinner scenes ended up being the show's most emotional moments and helped keep viewers watching. Filming in New York wasn't easy. He refused to shoot in cheaper cities like Toronto. That added $1.5 million to the budget each season. By 2018, the long days on uneven streets began to take a toll. He had back pain, arthritis, and even collapsed on set in 2021 after a 16-hour shoot. He avoided painkillers and turned to yoga to recover. Fans worried when they saw him limping in 2023, but he said it was exaggerated. Even with the pain, he never stopped fighting for authenticity. But in May 2024, something happened that broke him. CBS announced Blue Bloods was ending, even though it still had 9.5 million viewers and was #1 on Friday nights. He was furious. He accused the network of ignoring the show's $3 billion syndication value. At 79, he demanded a spin-off focused on Frank Reagan's retirement. He even said he'd sue if they ignored him. By August 2025, nothing had been finalized, but he said he wasn't done. He said, "I'm 80 and fiercer than ever." Tom Selleck was not a star when he met Jacqueline Ray. It was May 15, 1971, and he was just another struggling actor hoping for his big break. She was already a model and a mother to a little boy named Kevin, born in 1966. They met on a blind date, and something clicked. Soon, they got married. Tom adopted Kevin and raised him like his own son. Back then, they seemed like a happy family. But everything changed when fame came crashing into their lives. In 1980, Tom landed the role of Thomas Magnum in Magnum, P.I. The show was filmed in Hawaii, and it turned him into a household name almost overnight. The attention, the fan mail, the way women would swoon over him on set. It was too much. Rumors began to spread. Some claimed Tom was getting involved with women on the island. The whispers hurt Jacqueline deeply. She started feeling like she had lost the man she married. After 11 years together, she filed for divorce in 1982. Tom later admitted it broke him. He called it the worst thing that ever happened to him. He became depressed. He felt like fame had stolen something too precious to ever get back. Yet, oddly enough, Jacqueline appeared in a few episodes of Magnum P.I. even after the divorce. She eventually remarried in 1992. Kevin, their son, kept in touch with Tom and went on to work in music and acting. Then something strange happened. In 1983, while filming a movie in London, Tom found himself watching the Broadway musical Cats. Not just once. He went over and over again. People thought it was odd. Why was a big American actor going to see a musical so many times? The answer was Jilly Mack. She was a dancer in the show, playing the energetic Rumpelteazer. Tom was smitten. He asked her out to dinner. And just like that, a new story began. By 1984, Jilly had moved to Hawaii to be closer to Tom. She was by his side at events, even when he got his Hollywood Walk of Fame star in 1986. Despite their age gap, he was 38 and she was 25, their connection grew stronger. On December 16, 1988, they had a daughter, Hannah Margaret Selleck. Jilly quit her career to focus on raising their family, something Tom appreciated more than words could say. This second chance felt different. It felt real. But even their wedding didn't go as planned. On August 7, 1987, they ran off to a small 24-hour chapel near Lake Tahoe. They used fake names, Tom Jenkins and Susie Mark, trying to keep it all secret. Only a few people were there. At the last minute, they realized they had forgotten the marriage license. The officiant had to drive all the way to Reno to get it. They waited quietly in a dim room with fake grass on the floor. When the Reverend came back, the ceremony went ahead. No photos, no press, just Polaroids and a quiet celebration. That moment shaped the way Tom lived the rest of his life, with as much privacy as possible. In 1988, he shocked everyone by quitting Magnum PI at the height of its success. Instead of chasing more roles, he bought a 63-acre avocado ranch in Ventura County. It used to belong to Dean Martin. That's where he wanted to raise his daughter. That's where he wanted to be, far from the cameras. He worked the land himself, doing chores, repairing roads, and tending to trees. He said he needed a three-dimensional life, not just lights and scripts, not just applause. Years passed. In July 2015, during California's historic drought, Tom faced a different kind of spotlight. The Water District accused him of stealing 1.4 million gallons of water to keep his avocado ranch alive. Investigators followed a tanker truck that made 12 trips to a public hydrant. Tom said he didn't know the driver was doing that. He settled out of court for $21,685. Still, people criticized him. Some even made jokes about Magnum stealing water. It hurt his image, but he stayed quiet. Then, in 2024, he gave another surprise. In his memoir, You Never Know, Tom admitted that before marrying Jilly, he was emotionally closed off. He called himself a flake when it came to love. Between 1967 and 1982, he had short flings and didn't take relationships seriously. He even ghosted someone after landing a small commercial job. He dated Mimi Rogers briefly in 1982, but ended it out of the blue. His honesty shocked fans who had always seen him as the ideal romantic hero. There were other controversies, too. In the 1990s, Tom openly supported the NRA. He joined the board in 1998. After the tragic Columbine shooting in 1999, he got into a heated argument on live television with Rosie O'Donnell. Protesters showed up at his events. Some fans turned against him. He said in a 2000 interview that his political views had cost him roles. In 2024, he revealed he still owned about 20 firearms, many from his cowboy movies. The divide between his on-screen cop persona and real-life views became hard for people to ignore. And then came another surprise. In a 2024 interview with Kelly Clarkson, Tom said he actually hates avocados. The man who owned a huge avocado farm couldn't stand the taste. He said it went back to his childhood in the 1960s when someone forced him to eat them. He called them slimy mush. The farm, it turns out, was never about the fruit. It was about peace and space. He doesn't even manage the farm himself. He hires others to do it. Still, it earns around $50,000 a year, and he donates much of the produce to veterans. In 2023, Tom and Jilly quietly renewed their vows at their Ventura ranch. There was no press, no big reveal, just a quiet celebration, almost 4 decades into their marriage. By 2025, they had been together for 37 years. Their daughter Hannah stayed away from Hollywood too. She grew up surrounded by horses and nature, not flashing cameras. Now, Tom Selleck is 80. He lives in the same house. He still doesn't own a smartphone. He avoids social media. He writes scripts on a typewriter. When he goes out, paparazzi barely recognize him. On July 14, 2025, someone snapped a photo of him in LA with long gray hair and a beard, holding McDonald's after a gym session. He looked like any older man running errands. But under it all is a man who once walked red carpets, turned down millions, and chose love over lights.